Hi guys! In this video I'm going to explain why you can't trust your symptoms or use your symptoms in your Achilles tendon to tell you whether your tendon has fully recovered its function after you've had an Achilles tendinopathy. I'll also explain to you how you can actually test if you're ready to go back to your sport at full competitive level. My name is Maryke. I'm one of the physios from treatmyachilles.com, where you can get online physiotherapy assessment as well as treatment for your Achilles injuries. Have a look at the description of this video if you want more information about that. So, this video has been inspired by an article written in 2007 by a group of Swedish researchers, and what they wanted to see was if pain and symptoms and the resolution of pain and symptoms correlates with full return of function in the Achilles tendon complex. So what they did was they took about 37 athletes and put them through a 6-month rehab protocol, physio-led protocol, which included strength training, plyometric training, return to sport stuff. And then a year later they tested them to see how their calf function and their Achilles function had improved or resolved. So they used functional tests. They looked at different types of movements and jumps and stuff to see, because Achilles tendons are mainly there for return of force, so they're like springs when you move and when you run and stuff. And what they found was, so they used a symptom checker tool that we all use, which is the VISA-A score, and it's a form that you fill in with regards to how many hops a patient can do, heel raises, distance they can walk, things like that. They score it pain-wise and symptoms-wise. And it's been proven to be quite effective in showing whether the Achilles tendon is recovering or not. But what these researchers found was, when a year later they tested these athletes again, and they took the group of athletes who said Achilles tendon has fully resolved, they don't have any pain, stiffness, anything, they're back to full sport, and they checked specifically their functional tests, they found that only 25% of those athletes had regained full function of their Achilles tendon and calf complex and how well it functioned, injured leg versus uninjured leg. So that's quite significant, because what that tells us is that we can't trust pain and stiffness and stuff and all those symptoms that you feel to tell us whether your Achilles tendon is strong enough for the sport you want to be doing. Now, that may sound strange, because we tend to, as human beings, place a lot of value in our pain experience, in that if a pain is sharp and quite intense, we immediately assume that that must mean an injury is quite bad. Whereas if it's just a niggle level and it's just a dull ache, I find that it's not very often that I see a runner who just comes complaining of a little bit of a dull ache every now and again. Whereas, actually, what the research has shown is that we can't trust our pain experience, and that's for a variety of injuries. Because pain is not created in the tissue, so pain does not equal damage. And pain can't tell us about how well tendon or muscle or something functions. So we used to think if you've got a big injury, lots of pain. Small injury, not very much pain. But the problem is that pain is actually created in the brain. So the brain is forever getting signals from all parts of the body, and those signals tell it about pressure, chemicals, stretch, heat, cold. And it's only when those signals hit a certain threshold, start bombarding it above a certain threshold, that the brain starts to take note. Because the brain's only worried about if something's going to cause damage to the body. So as soon as it hits that threshold, then it starts noticing it and goes, okay, I think you've got pain there, I want you to move, I want you to make a plan that doesn't hurt so much anymore. So it wants you to take action. But what we found is that actually your thoughts and your beliefs and your emotions and your previous experiences can influence your pain perception. So if your brain, or through previous experiences, you've had an ache or pain in a certain area, and that's taken you out of training for 6 months, your brain is going to interpret any ache or pain in that area as quite a serious thing that needs to be looked after immediately. Also, say for instance you've had a family member or a close friend who's been really ill or has had cancer and they had pain in their backs. If you then develop back pain, even from picking something up, you may worry quite significantly that it could be cancer. And I've seen it in patients that only once they've had a proper diagnosis and scan and shown that no, actually it's just normal back pain, the back pain nearly disappears overnight. And it's purely because the brain has downgraded the threat level. So now it doesn't think it's being threatened anymore, and the pain levels are much more, or comes down to a much more normal level. But the opposite is also true. Take endurance athletes, for instance. They can decondition their brains. So you can't be an endurance athlete if you can't stomach a lot of discomfort and pain, because endurance sports causes pain and it really pushes the body to its maximum. So they become really good with just putting the pain in a box and just ignoring it and go background noise, background noise. And I've seen endurance athletes with really severe injuries, and they never had more of a niggle of pain until the proper moment that the pelvic fracture or something happened, stress fracture. And in a normal human being who hadn't deconditioned their body to, or conditioned their body to tolerate that much pain, they would have had quite a lot of pain leading up to that moment. So pain is not a very good measure to tell you about how healthy tissue is, or how tolerant tissue is to load. So how can you tell if your Achilles tendon is actually ready to do your sport? Well, we do exactly the same things those researchers have done. We may use slightly different tests depending on the person in front of us, but we use functional movement. So we look at the type of sport you want to be doing. We look at your level of taking part in that sport and your fitness level as well. So the functional test that I set for an elite athlete will be totally different from the functional test I set for a person who likes to run 5K twice a week at a very moderate pace. Because this person who competes at the highest level, their tendon will have to function at a much higher level than this person's. But as a rule of thumb for our runners, we tend to use heel raises and loaded heel raises as the first instance to decide whether your tendon is strong enough to tolerate the loads from running. So usually we look to build our recreational runners up to at least 1.2% their body weight that they can use extra on their heel raises. If you're an elite athlete, we'll be looking towards more 1.5% of your body weight that you should be able to do your heel raises with. Then also hop tests are quite useful for that, because you're looking at the quality of movement. Is that tendon producing the same quality of contraction that the person looks as in control, injured leg versus uninjured leg? Are they getting the same height? Are they getting the same distance? So depending on the sport as well, hopping may be more or less appropriate. So there are loads of functional tests like that. And then of course also, when you return to running, you use different parts of the running training as targets. So you always want to hit a certain volume of endurance training first. Once you've hit that, you go, okay, tendon's strong enough to cope with this. I think we can start loading it more forcefully. So then tempo runs. Then you'll go into your more high speed, like track sessions or hill runs and stuff. But there's always, you tick the boxes one at a time, so that you make sure you prime the muscle and the tendon for the activity that you want it to do. So the take-home message here is, don't just assume if your pain's gone down that your tendon's strong and fully functional. You have to make it do the functional test that's appropriate to you. And then when you want to progress your running and everything, you've got to tick the boxes that you've done all the prep work in this box of endurance, and then start building slight speed over speed endurance and then forceful contractions, so that you don't just jump from 0 to full on, because that's where re-injury happens. Excellent. Let me know if you've got any questions, and if you need more help with your Achilles injury, you're always welcome to consult one of us via video call. Link to the website is in the description of this video. Take care.